WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Communications Channel 16 proudly present the We Should Know Show, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative. Celebrating 15 years of bringing you the We Should Know Show, here's your host, J.W. Simmons.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We Should Know is on there. I'm J.W. Simmons, your host. It's always a pleasure to be here. We've been going into the show now a little over 15 years, talking about subjects, trying to give you as much as we can information, hopefully a little bit of education for all of us about subjects and issues that's facing our community. Today we're talking particularly about substance abuse and the whole recovery issue. And some folks you're going to remember from previous shows, and some folks we got new. So I'm going to start an introduction here with Dr. Veronica Stevens. Dr. Stevens, thank you for being with us. I've known you for a long time. You retired from Sampson Community College, headed up the nursing program out there, taught a lot of good folks to do some good things in the hospital and nursing here in this part of the state. You're a graduate of East Carolina with Bachelor of Science degree. You also obtained your master's and postmaster's certificate in family nursing and a graduate degree in the community college system. You got a doctorate in nursing from East Carolina University. It's amazing to have you in the community and you continuing to serve this community. Thank you for being with us. New to our show today is Candice Mathis Jenkins. Now, if you don't know her by the Jenkins part, it's the same Candice Mathis, but she's added a Jenkins to it. Candice, thank you for being with us. You're the Executive Director of the Mediation Center of Eastern Carolina. You also chair the Sampson County Substance Abuse Coalition, co-chair of Duplin Sampson Community Collaborative, and member of the North Carolina Community Alternatives for Youth. Graduated from Wake Forest University, degree from UNC in Wilmington, also post-baccalaureate certificate from Duke University, and public health certificate from East Carolina. Thank you for taking time being with us. I can only imagine your schedule, so we're going to try to keep you here as long as we can. And then on the other side of the room here, to my left, is somebody that's been here before as well, and Dr. Carrie McLean. I want to thank you for being here. You and I have a lot in common, and she's looking at me wondering what I'm going to say. We both graduated from North Carolina State University, and I appreciate your doctorate from North Carolina State University. A great place to learn. Also a great place to try to carry that forward. I want to thank you for taking time to be here. Two of you, Victoria, Dr. McLean, both of you guys work for Changing Paths. And I think when I think about Candice, it just seems like you work for everybody because you're all over the state. But one of the things I wanted to do is, and I try to do this every year, is National Recovery Month 2025. So the theme this year is Recovery is Real and Restoring Every Aspect of Life, quotes. That is probably something that we could carry the conversation on for a couple of weeks about just that idea. And I want to start this morning with Candice. Since you're new, you get first go at it. You have so much going on in multiple counties. When I hear the word mediation, what comes to mind for me, for my personal definition, is that it's a way of bringing understanding together. So you've been doing that for quite some time. Also, you took on these other hats. Tell us how, when we think about substance abuse and recovery and those kinds of things, the mediation word comes to mind and works with you.
Absolutely. So for mediation, one of the things is about bringing understanding. So in order for people to get together and want to have a mediation, they have to be willing to at least want to develop some level of understanding of each other. It's about listening. It's about communication. It's about bringing people to the table who think that they don't have anything in common at all and finding out that they can reach an agreement on something, hopefully. So when you start talking about substance misuse in our communities and some of the other issues that are going on that we face, it goes hand in hand. because we need to be listening and be aware about what's going on in our community. We definitely need to communicate about these issues in our community. And it's our neighbor, it's our friend, it's our cousin, it's someone we might pass by in the street or at the grocery store that are going through these issues or that have experienced these issues. And so with the mediation and facilitation work that I do with the Mediation Center, it was just a natural bridge to that as just another way to help organizations that are wanting to provide services and provide education on that particular issue, but also letting people know that there's support, that there's resources, and that if there is anything that's going on with them as they're in their substance misuse or concern that they have going on, that there's a way that we can bring them to the table and that we can get them with others that are hopefully going to allow them to get better or reach the things that they need.
And you worked throughout the cycle of events, whether it's the court system or where it may be. If folks need your help, they can call the Mediation Center and say, look, I really need some help dealing with this?
So with the Mediation Center, we work with youth, we work with adults, and we work with families. We work in some of our counties, we work with the courts. We work with juvenile court. In some counties, we work with adult district court. So we get referrals from different human services agencies, so Department of Social Services, other organizations, schools, et cetera. And they're able to reach out for mediation services, conflict resolution services, anger management services, anything that kind of falls under that umbrella. And if it's something that we don't provide directly, or if they maybe need a bridge to something else, we try to stay abreast of what's going on, what resources are available in our communities to help make sure that they get the assistance that we need. Right now, Mediation Center has 6 offices and we're serving 14 counties in the eastern part of the state.
It sounds like that this is a huge asset to the behavioral health piece of substance and substance abuse and those kinds of things.
Yes, absolutely. I found, especially when we're doing our things with youth, by being able to go in and do skill building in some of our schools or working with organizations who may have youth and starting to build those early skills on, that's more of trying to hit it from the prevention stage, but also providing those very early interventions. And from that, sometimes we're, then able to also assist with the adults in the home or help provide some recommendations or resources, or just help those youth cope with what's going on in their lives so that hopefully they can develop into, positive individuals, that they're developing those positive decision-making skills.
Victoria, Veronica, I want to kind of come to you, and my question, I'm going to pose this in this manner. When you were at the community college and training all those nurses and what you were doing in the nursing program at the college for 30 plus years, did you ever see your career ending up in a substance abuse environment?
I did not.
Yeah, I kind of felt that on some of the things I was reading, that you were like, wow, I'm here.
But it seemed like a natural progression whenever the opportunity was presented to me. And quite often I find myself thinking everything that I have done in my life, in my career, has built to this moment. And then I look at how all those pieces fell into place, and I feel like that I'm where I'm supposed to be.
When you retired from the college, I was told you off air earlier, I was looking at a document, and there was a quote in there where you thanked your mother and father for the structure they'd given you in life and the expectation in life. When you look at that now, you've got to be somewhat satisfied that you followed those rules and those instructions and ended up in a place now that you can literally step out and help people further than what you were training other people to do at the college.
Yes, and at the time, we thought it was tough. We had I had 10 siblings, so there were 11 of us, and our parents just had a certain set of expectations. Some were really unspoken, because they were setting the example. They were mentoring. So naturally, this is what we're supposed to do. And I kind of felt like that was the way that everybody was coming up. And then I found out later on that it was not. But just the structure and mainly them setting an example of just how to be good citizens, how to communicate, so many different things, a work ethic. We learn by example, and I really appreciate that. And just them having the expectation that we would do well at something. No matter what that was, you worked hard at that, and just had a spirit of excellence about you, and that would take you where you needed to be.
Dr. Carrie McLean, I want to kind of turn to you with your background and looking at that where you are now and your academic credentials. You are kind of one of those people that look at the behavioral part of that psychological piece, what goes on between the two ears that sometimes we can't quite measure. When we talk about recovery, are we on a path that we need to be on, particularly locally? I mean, we can look at all the stats we want to on a national level, but when we look at it locally, say in Sampson and a few surrounding counties, do you feel like there's other things that we need to get into that maybe we're not? And we're going to have to take a break in a minute, but I want to kind of start that and then come back to you after break.
Well, I feel privileged to sit with Candice and Dr. Stevens. Particularly, I work with Dr. Stevens, so I know a lot about her, but I was not aware of the services that she provides. And so as I listen to her, I see a whole cycle of things, and I was like, well, I should have known this earlier, because I have so many people who come in to the recovery journey, and they have kids who are impacted, and the family dynamic is disrupted. And so a lot of times, like as a counselor working with recovery, there's only so much I can do, but I see other needs, and I hear her talking about working with youth and mediation. So I think absolutely, yes, I see a community cycle that can evolve. And like I said earlier, I'm a practitioner, and so I see so many ways that we can connect as a community to serve the community in ways where we can really have a dynamic effect on the family, not just the person who's in recovery, but the family, the children who are impacted. The family dynamic is usually always impacted by addiction and substance use. And so we see a lot in that circle, and there's a lot that can be done. It's definitely a community issue. We talked about earlier, there are people who are in recovery. In some ways, I think those people are lucky, because there are other people out there who are not in recovery, who need to be, who want to be. They don't know how to be. They don't know that they can get the support that they need to be in recovery. They don't know that there are medications that they can use to help them recover. So it is a huge community problem that we can work on. And then substance is not just about the substance, it's the impact that it has on a whole cycle, the family cycle, the community cycle, because substance use starts to suck the community if we don't manage it or help the people who are trapped in substance use. And not everybody who's using wants to be using.
We're going to take a quick break and come back. When we come back, I want to kind of let folks know that we're going to then kind of dig into this whole thing, this whole idea of what is recovery, what does that entail, what is involved with that. So we'll be back in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Cork and Brew Roseboro, where you can enjoy your favorite coffee, fraps, smoothies, bakery items, sandwiches, and select beer and wines while reconnecting with friends and family. Sit down and enjoy the experience. Come on by and give us a try.
We find in life that some things just go together, like peanut butter and jelly, cheese and crackers, steak and potatoes, and of course, milk and cookies. But the bottle and the throttle are never a good combination. Be smart. Be safe. Be responsible. Don't drink and drive.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The name of the show is We Should Know. I'm J.W. Simmons, your host. We're coming to you on Star Communications TV, Channel 16, also simulcast on WCLN Radio. We're talking today about a subject that's just interesting, or has to be for everybody, and it's substance abuse. Particularly, this is September, and it's National Recovery Month. We're highlighting that one word, recovery. How do we get out of this? Dr. McLean, we went off the air and you were kind of explaining some of the things that you're involved in with the psychological part, the mental issue, that thing that's going on with the neurons in the brain and all that kind of thing. When you look at that person and you see that person needs help, how do you work your way through that mirage of things that's happening to get them to step up and understand what you're saying? This is what you need to consider doing. This is why you need, for example, just simple say, you need to go for counseling, or you need to show up at at a substance abuse addiction place, or even a program like Changing Paths. What do you do? Tell us how you approach that.
Okay. Well, it's person by person as they walk in to the door, and a lot of it is I'll fall back on the foundation, which is a counseling foundation. You can't tell people what to do. They have to want it for themselves. And so when I begin, I make an assessment of where they are cognitively, like what is it they need in order, what needs to happen in their mind, and are they bought into a recovery process? Mm-hmm. Because some people come for support for different reasons. They're not really ready to get rid of the substances yet, but they need help for other reasons. And so you have to start with each person where they are. And I start by validating the person as a person, because I find that a lot of people who are trapped in addiction are trapped because they don't think enough of themselves to let go of the substance. And if you can get people to understand their value as a person, the value that they can bring, they are usually at their lowest point when I begin to talk to them. They've lost a lot in life. They've lost a family. They have little connections. Sometimes they don't have a home. And so I start by talking to them and just finding out who they are and what is it they want, because I say I'm here to help you reach your goals. And what are your goals? Sometimes they don't know what they are. But if I listen to them, I find out that they want a job, they want a home, and they want what they think is a normal life. They want what all of us want. They don't know how to get back to it because they've lost it.
As chair of the Substance Abuse Coalition and these other collaboratives, including the Eastern Carolina Mediation Centers, do you see that a lot in your work? Do you see that inability to be able to break through that barrier that exists, that it just seems so clear to you, or should I say, whatever rational people are, that that's the thing, But how, do you face that a lot?
Absolutely. I mean, everyone has their thing, kind of what Dr. Stevens was just mentioning. So everybody's been through something. Mm-hmm. And particularly when you're talking about addiction, if someone is misusing a substance, they may not even realize that it's misuse. It may have been normalized through their childhood or through other experiences. If it's something that all of their peers are doing, it's just normal. It's not a misuse, it's regular use. Because they may be misusing something that's completely legal. A lot of times if it's an illegal substance, sure, it clicks, they know. Yeah. But they may be misusing something that they can just,
it may be something the doctor has prescribed.
Correct. They may be able to just, go right up to the store and buy something, or again, a prescription. And so it does take a lot of times people around them to say something, but what I found, and particularly in, just doing a lot of work with families and my work with communication skills, et cetera, is that we often don't want to hear the truth from the people close to us, for whatever that reason may be, whether it's no matter what the issue is, whether it's something addiction related or something that's not. But it takes hearing the truth from the right person, or getting to that point where they just realize, I need help. I need help from somebody.
Whether they, again, want to accept that or whether they learn it on their own the hard way. As we like to say, rock bottom, and everybody's rock bottom is a little bit different. You know, for someone, losing their children may be rock bottom. For someone else, losing their home may be the rock bottom. For someone else, the death of a loved one, and maybe they were completely oblivious to it because they were under the influence and in a fog and didn't even realize that it happened. You know, I've heard stories of that. So there's a lot of different things that it may take for that person to kind of wake up, but that fog, that blindness is an issue. And it's not only just the person, sometimes the family can be blind. They don't realize, they're not picking up on the signs that this person that is living in my house has an issue, that they have a concern. And if you miss it and you miss that opportunity to help, which kind of relates to another point, slightly getting off topic, but you know, it goes back to if we observe something and if you do see it, to be willing to step up and say something gently, kindly, respectfully, but to be willing to say something, or just say, hey, I'm here to talk to you if you want to talk. Hi, I might know somebody that may be able to help you out if you ever, you know, want to talk to someone. Because all of those things are key, and all of that is part of the community building.
Well, as somebody that does this, I mean, literally in your role as a mediation kind of person, do you find a way, is there a specific way you approach somebody that they don't become defensive? Is it, is there certain words you use or something of that nature, particularly as it relates to people in, say, for example, you're a teacher in a county and you see it, or if there's somebody in your family, is there, you know, that you don't come across with that, you know, command sergeant, first sergeant, drill sergeant mentality?
Absolutely. I think something that you mentioned was about seeing someone as a person. So I think that's one of the first things is seeing them as a person. And as you do that, you're talking to them and with them and not at them. That makes a big difference.
Keyword understanding.
Right. You're understanding. You're seeing them. You're seeing them and you're knowing them, and not knowing them just for their addiction.
Yes.
Knowing them as a person. And so a lot of times, if you can introduce the conversation with some point of connection that isn't related to the addiction issue at all, that at least gives you a segue where you turn on the listening ears, right? And then you can segue into that. So that's one of the strategies that I found. Even if I'm in a mediation and it might be a particular issue, it's saying, okay, if these people are here, what is something that I can get them to focus on that's a common goal? What is something that I can get both of them to see from that same lens? Because we all have a different perspective. Our perception of life is shaped by what we've seen, what we've experienced, what we've lived through, what we've observed. And so everybody's lens is going to be a little bit different. But that main thing is finding that common ground, finding that understanding. And again, I think by opening the conversation about something, we're not trying to guise it, but just letting them see and acknowledge that you see them as a person and that you really are there for them, and again, talking to them and with them and not at them.
Well, one of the things, Dr. McLean, that comes to mind, you know, as we're talking about this subject, when we think about addiction, we typically, I guess, goes in our mind of something illegal, of something devastating, but you can become addicted in some ways to the foods we eat. If you decide you're going to eat 50 Twinkies in an hour and they're great, and then all of a sudden you go, oh God, what just happened? Or you know, my second cup of black coffee here this morning may be another issue. But is that something that we fail to realize, that we all have within us that certain gravity about certain things, or that could be called addiction? And maybe I'm taking it too far. I'm just tossing that out.
Most people, well, not most people, I'll just say there are many types of addiction. You can be addicted to gaming, and you can be addicted to shopping.
Absolutely. You got to have another one of those.
Yeah. So there are many types of addiction, and a lot of times that's the way I can connect with my clients, because I'll have a cup of coffee on my desk, and they tell me, like I used to teach the substance class, and they would say, "Oh, well, you got an addiction to coffee," and I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm working on it." I'm trying to reach abstinence, and then I'm in recovery as well. So yes, there are many kinds of, and often when people are addicted and you're trying to walk them through the recovery journey, they will switch one addiction for the other. Yeah. That's a very common thing to happen. They may stop using substances and start gaming, or usually not shopping because they have financial issues if they're in addiction for too long. But absolutely. And then seeing people separate from their addiction, because I find that's one big issue when I'm working with folk, is they can't see themselves separate from addiction. They only see themselves as an addict. And they have the stigma internalized themselves. If you can get them to separate, to try to separate themselves from their addiction, because they feel horrible about the situation that they're in. And many times they are very aware of the situation that they're in. They're very aware that they made bad decisions and they got themselves into a really bad place, and they cannot see beyond that. So to help them see themselves as a person, to talk about what it is they value outside, because they've been fixated on treating a situation that they have usually. If I got below the level to find out what is driving that addiction, trauma, childhood trauma, unresolved grief. Something happened that triggered something within them, and they felt like they could do something to make themselves feel better, and that something was the substance. So I asked, when is it that you find yourself using the most? When I'm bored, when I'm sad, when I think about my grandma that died, or when I think about the abuse I experienced as a child, and I don't want to think about that. So I do something to make myself numb, and so that I don't have to think about it. And then I usually start asking questions like...
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to follow that same thread and kind of get some input as well, because I think this is important that we touch on this, because we're really getting in the area that I like, because it's education, and I love education. Dr. Stevens can say amen on that. She does as well. So I think the more we can educate people on this subject and get them to understand that there's services there that can help is going to be critically important. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment. We're talking about recovery. We're talking about addiction issues with critically thinking people that have the academic credentials and experiential credentials to help you. We'll be back in a moment. Call a friend. Stay tuned.
How can your friend save you money? It's easy. Refer a relative, coworker, neighbor, or friend to Star Communications. Friend signs up for high-speed internet service. Friend's new account is confirmed. Friend gives your name to our service representative as the one who referred them to Star. You receive a $30 internet credit. It's just that simple. And even better, receive a $30 internet credit for every referral that results in a new confirmed account. High-speed internet from Star Communications. Refer a friend today.
Providing less, you froze up, and more presence in your presentations. Providing a better internet experience. Providing possible.
If you run a business, you need sales. To get sales, you need customers. To get customers, you need exposure. Let our team of experts craft and produce the perfect video ad to reach your intended audience while making the most of your advertising dollars. Call 1-800-706-6538 or visit starcom.net to contact our Star Communications production team and get your business moving to the next level.
Since our inception, we have distributed in food and supplies over $3 million worth out of Salemburg, North Carolina. And people always ask us, what can we do to help? So Norman has got some little slide cards here so we can tell you what we do need and maybe, as importantly, what we don't need.
Absolutely.
So, what we do need is soup, canned soup, ramen. What we do not need is hair tonic or hairspray. There's only one of us that uses hair tonic, and he has an ample supply. But we do need rice. We distribute rice every month. Bag rice, box rice, yellow rice, white rice, don't make any difference. We need rice all the time. What we don't need is live pigs. If you want to have that pig ready to barbecue, we can use that. But we do need canned vegetables. We'll take corn, beans, any kind of canned vegetables. We distribute about 2,000 cans of vegetables every month. What we don't need is chia pets. Sometimes early in the morning, Norman looks like a chia pet, so we don't need, particularly before he puts his hair tonic on. But we do need peanut butter and jelly. There's a lot of children at home. We use peanut butter and jelly, again, 12 months out of the year. Any size jar, any flavored jelly, grape, apple, it don't make any difference. We'll take any of it. We do not need sushi. The fish around here says, please cook me in lard. We don't need sushi. But we do need Pop-Tarts. Children at home, they eat Pop-Tarts. We need Pop-Tarts all the time. We do not need used tires. That may come as a surprise to some folks, but Norman has decided to bring his used tires around his belly. That's where he hauls his all the time. Send checks to the Christian Food Bank of Salemburg, P.O. Box 134, Salemburg, North Carolina, 28385. And Norman has a little note there that says cash is as good as money. So that's how you can help us.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. The name of the show is We Should Know. I'm J.W. Simmons, your host. We're coming to you again on Star Communications TV, Channel 16, simulcast on WCLN Radio. Our guests today are talking about national recovery. We're talking about substance abuse issues. And, of course, we've got some very well-known people in the community. Dr. Victoria Stevens. We've got Candice Jenkins now. Candice Mathis Jenkins. I want to make sure everybody understands who you are. And also we got Dr. McLean with us, Dr. Carrie McLean. We've got, each one of you have a perspective and specific understanding as it relates to this whole issue and stigma of addiction. Dr. Stevens, I want to start with you. There's a chemistry part of our body, the neurons and the chemicals that affect those neurons. And you mentioned something a while ago called endorphin. And for those of us that have an addiction called running or jogging, we feel that endorphin kick in about that second mile. We literally feel that kick in. And it tells us in our brain, and I'm just speaking from my experience, that, you know, I'm doing all right if I'm doing that, which I'm in denial. But at the same time, that's something that kicks in. Is that same endorphin the kind of thing that kicks in with substance abuse?
It is, and it's all about, we mentioned it earlier about the reward system. Mm-hmm. Certain things just make you feel good, just make you feel happy, and that's different for everybody. Mm-hmm. So drug use can certainly impact that, and then it can modify that so that it may take more and more of whatever it is that tickles your fancy or makes you feel happy. It will take more and more of that until you find yourself into in a place beyond control. And then that's different for everybody. Miss Candice was talking about maybe cheesecake, maybe her thing. Mm-hmm. She's not interested in smoking. You know, maybe somebody else is. And then you mentioned earlier that some individuals have a genetic predisposition. They have a greater propensity toward addictiveness.
Yes.
And we found that to be true. And I used to always tell my son, you don't know if that's you. You know what's going on in the family.
Yeah.
So, you just be careful and just some things stay away from, because some people, I do believe, are more genetically inclined. Some people may be able to take a puff of something or a hit of something and move on, not be interested in that again, or use occasionally and not become dependent on that substance. But some people, it's very easy to fall into dependence on a substance, and that changes everything. So a lot of factors that play into that.
Candice, as we're having this conversation today, I'm sitting here listening to these fine doctors, and it just strikes me. I think all of us need some therapy at times. What do you think?
I think everyone can benefit from a listening ear.
Mm-hmm.
And for people, it depends on where they want to find that. Some people may find that in a faith community. Some may find that more in the medical community. No one says you have to pick one or the other. Some people have someone in their family, maybe a grandma, auntie, that they always feel like they can go to. But I think that is important, because that relates back to what we were talking about: resources, support. Having a listening ear is extremely important, because then when you're going through something, you can talk with someone about what it is. They can maybe help you process. You can vent, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that therapy is something that is really important, that is a valuable resource. What I do with the community collaborative, which is a joint collaborative between Duplin and Sampson County, is we actually focus on children and families with mental health concerns and behavioral health concerns. And I promote therapy, promote our different providers, because there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting this third party person to talk to that can hopefully help you process emotions and help guide you through something. You don't want it to be a case where you've experienced an assault or a trauma,
Right.
and then you take that, and instead of processing that positively with someone like a therapist, instead you result to that addiction, you result to that substance misuse. So I do think that having another resource, an alternate type of resource, talking with someone is extremely valuable.
Dr. McLean, I want to circle back to you particularly, and we've touched on this a couple of times, this idea of what rock bottom is, or what the bottom is, or how where a person has to get before they are willing to open up and say, I don't want to be here. Do you see that with I'm going to say, your patients that come in and share with you? Do you think sometimes, I wish I could have reached that person 6 months ago or 3 months ago before you got into this situation?
Yeah.
And is there a formula that we're missing that we could reach that person? And if there is, I certainly think a lot of folks would like to know that. I'm sure that Candice would love to know that as well.
I think Candice is the formula, but
she needs to be reached.
I'm gonna try. No, I think she's the formula that we follow. But let's see how I need to say this quickly. I think that she was exactly right. Everybody's rock bottom is different. For some people, they may be in addiction, and they may lose their job, and they'll say, oh, this is out of hand. I gotta stop. I gotta do something. They'll
That's the breaking point.
Yeah, they'll go get help. But for some people, they got to lose their job, they got to lose their car, they got to lose their kids, and a whole bunch of other stuff before they figure out that they need to do something different. So rock bottom is a real different place. I'm going to go back to where we started earlier, and we were talking about communication and those values and things and skills that we learn as a child that we don't necessarily get today, because sometimes I think our culture and society has created a situation where, number one, everybody's supposed to be perfect. You don't need asking for help is not a part of our quote unquote norm in society. You're not supposed to have to do that. So that's the first thing we can do as a society, is to make it okay when people need help, and to make people understand you're going to get to a place in life. If you haven't gotten there already, something's going to shake you. and you need to ask for help. And it needs to be okay for people to do that. And then get back to some basic understandings and skill building in everybody, our kids. I think I always start with kids because I think that's where everything starts. You learn a lot as a kid. They say you learn by the time you get to kindergarten, you've got some things cemented. And so technology has made us into different beings. We've learned how to communicate. We talked about this earlier. We learned how to communicate with technology, but we didn't necessarily build our skills to communicate with people, to resolve conflict, to think critically about situations, and to think our way through problems that we might have, and to talk to other people to resolve problems. We get really stuck into where we are physically and where we are cognitively, because we're not communicating with other people as much as we used to get them to help us think through things and see different viewpoints, and to realize, well, you can think that way, and that's perfectly fine. You're still a good person, even if you think different from myself. And then where's the common ground? Because all of us want a good, safe community. And I think we could start right there and do a whole bunch of work around substance. Is that
Dr. McLean brings up a very interesting subject I was hoping to get to. I appreciate her doing that, because I really think we're in a time in our life experience that we do have all of these other things, and then we do add to that formula the task of not looking at those, whatever you want to call them, negative podcast or whatever it may be, but it faces us every day, and people get caught up in it. Sometimes we obviously have people that we see and we're thinking, they don't even know I'm in the room, and they're doing something on that device. So when I think about that, I'm sure there's a chemistry part to that, but Candice, I want to come back from our break and try to touch on this. I want to get everybody's opinion as to where we are now, not only with substance abuse and stigma, but where we are now as we face that challenge of technology, as we face that challenge of trying to think on our own as human beings when everything else is tapping on our windshield and tapping on our door. So we're going to take a break and we'll come right back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. We're coming on with the last part of the show today. Please call a friend if they hadn't been watching. This show will be aired again every Tuesday at 2:30, and then it's replays at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, Thursday. It's uploaded to social media platforms. I encourage folks to somehow go pull this up and look at it if you're just coming on. We'll be back in a moment for the last part of the show.
Looking to refresh your home? At Clinton Appliance and Furniture, we've got everything you need to create the perfect space. We're here to help make your house a home with stylish furniture, appliances, flooring, design services, delivery, and repair. Visit ClintonAppliance.com to explore our selection, or visit us at 401 Northeast Boulevard in Clinton. Shop local. Shop smart. Shop Clinton Appliance and Furniture. At Fisher's, it's not just about fashion. It's about exceptional service. Experience top-notch customer care and find your perfect look. Visit Fisher's today and feel the difference.
At the Reedy Mark, we take pride in a unique, distinguished customer experience. We specialize in handcrafted cocktails, allocated bourbons, as well as gourmet signature food items exclusive to our menu at the Reedy Mark in Roseboro.
The average American household has 17 devices connected to the internet. With more and more devices able to get online, you may need to increase your internet speed. Call Star Communications today and let us help you select the package that's right for you.
This year, when you get together with friends, we hope you have a great time. Just remember to drink responsibly and know your limits.
Let me have your keys.
And always have a safe way home.
See ya. Later.
Enjoy responsibly and always plan ahead.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up on the last part of the show today. The name of the show is We Should Know. And we come to you each and every week on Star Communications TV Channel 16, simulcast on WCLN Radio on Tuesdays at 2:30 with the replays at 7 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday, Star Communications TV Channel 16, uploaded to social media platforms. We're talking about substance abuse today and recovery, and we're talking with three folks that know quite a bit about that. Dr. McLean, also we're talking with Dr. Stevens, and Candice Mathis Jenkins. We're talking with you as well because you have your foot in the door in a lot of places in this region. When we went to break in the last part of the show, Dr. McLean, you kind of triggered this idea, I think, to look at where we are now with not only social media platforms, but technology. What are we really feeding our brain? And I think it deserves everybody having some comment. It's just perfect because I had some notes here. I wanted to touch on that. I want to start with you, Candice, because you're looking at different parts of the community in a large way here. What are you seeing, and how do you think social media platforms and technology now is affecting this society versus a society 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Absolutely. We are in a day and time where our children, from the time when as soon as they can use their hands, they know how to grab a cell phone. Children, they can be a toddler and they know how to pull up things on a phone. That wasn't the case, 1-2 decades ago, because it wasn't the norm. Everybody, at least I'm sure when we were growing up, we didn't grow up with cell phones in our hands, and our children may not have had that at that time. But because of that, it's very much ingrained, right? And because the social media platforms have grown, technology has grown, which, just like with anything, it can benefit us or it can hurt us. So one of the things I feel like is important when it comes into communication, and that's one of the things I studied in my undergraduate degree is in communication. Mm-hmm. I believe that people need to communicate, and communication can take form in a lot of different ways, but we cannot dismiss the value of face-to-face, in-person, real-life conversation. You can walk into a restaurant, see an entire family at a table, and everyone is looking individually at their cell phone. Mm-hmm. This happens all of the time. I'm sure you all have seen it. And not to say I'm not casting judgment on that, but it's just when we are in a place, we have taken away from that. We have changed the way that we communicate with people when we are in spaces because we have more technology available to us. So we can either get lost in that communication, we can dwell on social media, we can only text, we can get all of our information from all of the different platforms and apps that are out there, or we can do this thing called go to the library and pick up a book. Oh my goodness. We've got options, and I think it's important for people to realize that we have options. I'm going to continue to use my cell phone. Mm-hmm. But I'm also going to continue to talk to my family and spend time with them and try to cherish them and value them, as well as the people that I encounter. As we've been having this conversation, we haven't had to text one another while we've been in this space to get anything done. Yeah. Now, also on the flip side of that, technology can be helpful. You've got, there's apps that are available to help people who are struggling with substances. There's apps about addiction. There's apps for therapy, different things that are available now, virtual sessions that can happen for people. So if they need treatment and there's maybe not something available right in their area in real time, those things are available. So again, we have to be able to judge and screen and gauge what's good for us and what's not. I'm the type of person where I can be extremely empathetic. I know I can't read the news every morning. It's going to put me in a mood where I cannot do my job effectively. I cannot parent effectively. Mm-hmm. So I wait. I pick and choose which news venues I choose to read because I know myself, and I've taken time to try to analyze that and come up with a plan for me that works for me.
Dr. McLean, can the whole process of which Candice is just related here, can that become an addiction itself?
Absolutely. A technology addiction is very, very real, especially with students. And a lot of, and I think that's kind of how we came to this, because I think sometimes we use technology as a coping skill. It's not a person. It's not a skill. It's a tool. And I think we get really confused. And so I think that is the link to addiction, is that technology has replaced a lot of the basic skills that we should develop in our, I don't want to say students, children, because I really think it has to start early in developing those skills to talk to people, to resolve problems. And a lot of times what we try to do is not have problems. But life brings challenges in general. You can't live in the world and not have challenges and problems. And so we have to begin to develop those skills that are needed, those coping skills that people need to work themselves and not use substances. We have to start early developing those skills in our children, so that by the time they get into adulthood or teenage years, that they can have a problem and they have the skill sets that they need to resolve a problem, so that they don't have to fall to false resolution, which I see as substance. But for some people it's shopping, for some people it's running, for some people it's cheesecake. But it drives if we don't have those skills, it's going to drive some kind of unrealistic way to solve the problem. And it's going to drive us to do things that we don't need to do to get the feelings that we need to have, to feel happy, or to feel like, or to numb ourselves from what's really going on, as opposed to just solving the problems. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm very global, so you have to watch me because I see everything that's connected.
we got our eye on you. That's something. Dr. Stevens, I want to go to you, Dr. Stevens, simply because I'm listening to this and I'm thinking there's got to be certain metabolical things that's happening to us if we get to that point that we've got to have that thing in front of our face, and then all of a sudden somebody comes by, like a mother or father, that would just simply say no more today. Does that cause problems physically and the physicality of the body when you take something like that away, just as you would a drug?
Well, I think about the consequence of each action. So no, they may not be happy, but the flip side of that is, if that's allowed to continue and the processes that are allowed to evolve, what's going to be the worst evil? So like some people don't want to discipline their children because it's going to upset them. Well, they may be upset when they find themselves behind bars.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I just think about the levels of anxiety and depression. We have to bring mental illness into this that is kind of stimulated by the world that we live in, especially in the individuals who may already have the potential for that. So we have to make the hard decisions sometimes to say 10 minutes or 1 hour, or we're going to read today, or we're not, as Candice said, I'm not going to sit for hours and watch the news because they're going to tell the same bad news over and over again, and it's going to impact my day. So certain things we just have to monitor. Some things we have to pull back away from and abstain from, because the culture that we live in really thrives off, like you said, sensationalism, bad news, the hype. That's what sells.
But one of the things that just strikes me, we've got a couple of minutes here before we're going to have to close the show. I'm telling you, we need a series, but it strikes me is do we need to redefine what is rational and what is not? Is that, Candice, is that what I'm hearing us discussing now? Because if I take that device away, and whether it's my grandchild or your child, and if I take that away, it's going to create not only conflict, But, you know, we're talking about sad face, boom, immediately. So is there something there that we need to look at as we try to mediate and deal with that? And for parents out there, how would you address that as a trained mediator?
Well, I think what we have to do, like with anything in life, is envision what our plan is. What do you want your family to look like? Mm-hmm. What do you want your community to look like? And then you drill down from that. Mm-hmm. If taking the phone away, if enacting different rules, if making certain decisions will help you make progress towards getting that family that you want, building that community that you want, then you have to make the decisions accordingly. And so again, we're never going to agree on what's right, what's wrong, what's logical, what's illogical, etc. But I think we can agree that we want to be happy, we want to be healthy. So as you use those basic values to then build on, what do I want my family and community to look like? Then you make the decisions from there.
You know, I think we're at that moment kind of coming to close here. So, I mean, I got a couple of seconds left here, but I just want to say that this is a subject that needs to be discussed. My personal opinion, I hope people will contact me as they usually do, either by reaching out to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com or sending me a card in the post office box 1482. But just let me know what they think. This almost seems to be something that one of you pointed out that we need to make part of our community, is that communication piece where we seek understanding, where we seek what rational thought is. Is that kind of what we have come to today, that we need to really sit down as a family and families in communities and say we need to seek common, realistic grounds?
I very much agree. And for anyone who's interested, I think, being a part of coalitions, collaboratives, groups, our Substance Coalition is made up of some great folks: law enforcement, schools, Department of Social Services, Health Department, all of these individuals. We welcome individual people. Changing Paths was at our last meeting. So finding people, networking, coming to the table together, whether it's in your own home or in your community, to just help make things better.
Ladies, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for taking your time. Dr. Stevens, Candice Mathis Jenkins, I want to thank you. And also Dr. McLean, thank you for taking time. And I thank you for what you're doing in the community, have done in our community. And we look forward to having you back soon. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again next week on Tuesday, 2:30, with replay 7 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday. Have a great week, and may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.